There has been a lot of discussion today. Obviously, the big news, we started the show talking about this today as well, the deal announced between Canada and China, specifically as it relates to EVs, electric vehicles. Daniel Breton is president and CEO for Electric Mobility Canada. He is on the line. Monsieur Breton, thank you for your time. Let me begin. General question, reaction to the news you heard today.
I think that's a very good first step. First, you have to keep in mind that we're talking about less than 3% of light-duty vehicle sales in a year when we're talking about 49,000 electric cars. So this is not going to completely disturb the auto market in Canada, but we want to make sure that Canadians have access to more affordable options. Because right now, there's a real issue when it comes to affordability, both for gas and electric cars in the country.
Okay, well, if we focus strictly on EVs, and I'm not sure what the average price, you would obviously be able to sort of draw some kind of a line here comparatively. We're talking about Chinese EVs. My understanding that when these cars get here, you're looking at what, $35,000, $40,000 for a car, where you'd buy one here even at the lower end, and it would cost you at least what, $60,000 or $70,000. Can you give us an idea?
Well, just to give you an idea, during Q3 of 2025, according to Auto Trader, the average selling price of a new car, gas or electric, was $63,000. And this is getting out of hand. And when you add on top of that the fact that grocery has gone significantly up, the fact that the rent, the mortgage has gone up, so Canadians are strapped for cash. So if you're looking at, because in the news release by Prime Minister Carney's office, it says that they're expecting that the vehicles will be below $35,000 to have the 6% tariff instead of 106%. It will make a big difference because there are very few gas cars nowadays that are available below $35,000. So it will make a difference, and I think it's going to create some pressure to lower the prices of new cars, whether gas or electric.
Okay, but to your point, though, of this being basically a drop in the bucket, 49,000 cars, 3% of the industry, why would that put pressure to bring prices down? Because
car makers are well aware that this is the first step. The other thing that I find is really important is that in the news release, they're talking about collaborating to create co-enterprises to develop a supply chain, an EV industry in the country, which I think is great news because we are moving towards electric around the world, while the U.S. is taking 1, 2, 3 steps back. So it's either we were following the U.S. in the wrong direction or following the rest of the world in the right direction. So I think that there's a great opportunity there, and we want to make sure that auto workers have a job 5, 10, 15 years from now. And you heard as well as I did a few days ago, the President of the United States clearly stated that he did not want any Canadian cars to be sold in the U.S. So what he's saying is that I want to kill your auto industry, and we'll make them ourselves, and we don't care about CUSMA anymore. So I think it's a wise move from Prime Minister Carney to look at other partners. And right now I'm in Paris because I'm talking to car makers to see if we can create some collaboration between European car makers, cars built in Europe that are more affordable, that could be sent to Canada. Because right now, let's face it, we can't trust our southern neighbor.
You know, as you said that, I thought to myself, European cars tend to be more expensive cars than the average price here to begin with. You know, you're talking about brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz. How would that change? Are there less expensive models not being sent to Canada?
Absolutely. I'm testing some right now. Some of them are 20,000 euros. 20,000 euros, you're talking about $32,000 for an electric car. We don't have anything like that in Canada. And these are not necessarily European brands. It can be Korean brands, it can be Chinese brands, it can be Japanese brands, but some of them are indeed European brands, but we don't have access to them. Let's face it. Entry-level gas cars have disappeared from the Canadian market. Entry-level electric cars, when you're looking at what's being offered right now in Canada, there's one choice, and that one choice is the Fiat 500e. So Canadians can't say that they have access to a good choice of affordable cars. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm meeting with executives. I'm meeting with industry. I'm testing cars because I want this. I'm bringing this back to Canada. I'm going to be talking to the federal government because we want to find partnerships. Yes, China, but beyond China, as many different partners as we can, so that we don't rely so much on the U.S. anymore.
So I have a question as you described this. I was not aware. If there are less expensive brands of EVs, for example, I mean, the car market, like any other market, is supply versus demand. You'd think if there were cheaper cars, cheaper EVs, people would buy them. Why are these cars, why haven't they been allowed to be sold here? Or is that the manufacturer's decision?
It is the manufacturer's decision. When people say that we have freedom of choice, it's actually the freedom of choice from car makers more than consumers. So that's the very important nuance that people have to understand. Because some car makers, not all of them, but some car makers have decided not to bring affordable cars to the market anymore. I mean, look at, I don't know if you are aware of this, but what car, I'm not talking about SUV or pickup truck, what car does Chevrolet sell nowadays for Canadians? The only car that they still sell is a Corvette. That's it. The rest is either SUVs or pickup trucks. And as for Ford, it's a Ford Mustang. So there is no affordable entry-level gas cars being offered by these car makers anymore.
Because there's not enough profit margin in those cars? Why would they not be selling?
Because there's not enough profit margin for them, but it seems that in other markets, I'll give you an example. The Chevrolet Spark EV, Chevrolet Spark Electric, built in China at a reasonable price, is sold in Mexico, but not in Canada. Why is that? Well, that's why we need to put some pressure so that we can have access to those cars. And by the way, when we're talking about having access to Chinese electric cars, it means cars built in China for the Chinese market and other markets, but it doesn't mean that they have to be Chinese manufacturers. As I said, GM makes affordable electric cars that they sell elsewhere, but not in Canada. And it's the same for other brands that are selling those smaller, more affordable electric cars in other markets, but not in Canada. So maybe we'll end up having some of those more affordable electric cars made by some of those car makers that we know to our dealerships.
You know, I'm maybe asking a question you don't have an answer to. I mean, I think for a lot of people, this is a bit of a surprise. You'd think, you know, if you had a less expensive car to sell, more people would be buying EVs. The reason some do not buy them is because the prices are so expensive. Yet they sell these cars, as you just outlined, to other parts of the world, and I'm scratching my head as to why they wouldn't sell them here. We're not protecting an EV industry in this country. There really isn't one. So what would be the rationale, do you think?
Well, the rationale is profit margin.
But you can make money selling it somewhere else? You can't make money selling it here?
Well, I mean, keep in mind that in Europe or in China, in some markets, there is regulation for them to sell electric cars. So right now in Canada, we don't have these regulations because the EV availability standard has been pushed back at least 1 year. We'll know more in the next few weeks if we will still have an EV availability standard. But one thing is for sure is that if car makers do not have to sell electric cars, many of them won't, because to them, the old way of doing business, selling gas cars with older technology, is more profit in the short term.
Just as a final question, with respect to, let's talk about Canada specifically, or Quebec if you want to for just a moment. The idea being that where everyone thought people would be running to buy electric cars, we're finding out, of course, that's not turning out to be the case. I know government subsidies have a significant, portion of perhaps why people decided not to, as they either go down or will become eliminated. Is the future of EVs not as bright now as it was, say, 5 years ago?
Well, actually, if you go back 1 year, EV sales were really sky high. I mean, in Quebec in particular, in Q4 2024, with 42% EV sales. And then everything tumbled. I mean, they stopped their rebate at the federal government level, and then they stopped the Quebec rebate. And then we had an election. Donald Trump started imposing tariff on cars. So it created a whole chaotic situation. And in the summer, two ministers said, we will bring back the federal rebate. So people said to their dealers, well, we'll just wait for the rebate to come back, which also stopped EV sales. So we're hoping that 2026 is going to be a bit less chaotic. And in the next few weeks, we're expecting the federal government to come up with a plan, whether we're, both on infrastructure, incentive, regulation, and automotive. So I hope that this will put more, I would say, this will appease the industry and appease consumers, because last year was a year to forget.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Monsieur Breton, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.